performing law enforcement duty here. You should leave here immediately.
Talagang pinipilit talaga na sa kanila yun. Eh ayaw nila tayong palapitin doon eh. Sama ng loob sir at saka galit. Kasi hindi lang isang kaldero yung tinawag nila, eh marami. Maraming pamilya ginutom nila dahil lang dyan sa ginagawa nila.
Every man in Susan Caranay's family is a pescador, a fisherman. Whenever they're gone from home too long, she looks out to the sea. She worries about them. Today, it's two of her sons.
Kasi ganito ang inaano nila, inisip nila yung huli ng isda nila.
On any day, pescadors scour Masinloc Bay for a catch. The water is calm compared to the open sea. That's why they go out, even on a day like this.
Ano po sir, minsan walang pagbibiga kasi, ganun. Ilang araw na sila nag-standby sir. Maya naman po ako lalapit sa mga may katungkulin. Tapos sila, pag may mahuli po sila, ibibinta po pambiling gatas ng anak nila, pinaguyod po yung mga anak nila po.
One of her sons out at sea is father to 3 small children. The other one is only 17. Susan's husband, June, keeps his employer's boat. As its captain, he brings other pescadores to the open sea outside Masinloc Bay, where there's hope of a larger catch. But nowadays, that hope is fading. Ever since China took control of Scarborough Shoal, there's been far fewer fish to catch.
Maganda po doon mga isda, sari-sari. Mga isdang bato. Kahit anong isda po doon, meron po. Kasi bahura po yun eh.
Scarborough Shoal lies 220 kilometers or 137 nautical miles from Masinloc. About the size of Quezon City, it is a shallow area in the middle of the open sea, enclosed by a rocky formation. Pescadors who fished in the shoal tell of a marine life paradise. June Carana used to work for Mario Porones on his trawler that used to go to Scarborough Shoal with about 30 hired pescadors. Those days, a single expedition hauled in an average 10,000 kilos of fish, raking in 300,000 pesos up to twice a week.
15 years na ako nangingisda dyan. Yung mga inchik, nasa labas lang yan eh. Ngayon, sila na ang matapang eh, kami na pinapalayas.
The business languished after the Chinese incursion, and Mario sold his trawler and got a stall in the market instead. To cut the risk of loss, he just sells fish he buys from other fishing crews. But even sales in the Masinloc fish market have declined in the last 4 years. Outside Scarborough Shoal, the catch is lean.
Nung araw, nakaka-1,000 kami, ganyan. Isang araw. Yung mga kapwa tindira dito, dahil marami silang paninda. Ngayon, 300, ganyan, 400 isang araw.
Mario is just one of several entrepreneurs in Zambales who've given up on the fishing business. That means fewer and lower paying jobs for many pescadores, like June, who doesn't even own a decent boat.
Kung sana makapunta ng sariling pangitan ba, bangka. Kaya lang po, wala po. Kapos sa budget ko.
All the family has are small outrigger boats for handline fishing. They can neither go very far nor carry much fish. That's why despite bad weather, a pescador must go out to sea. Finally, the rain lets up, and Susan spots her sons in the distance.
Sila na ba yan? Parating?
Oh, yan. Sila yan, sir.
After 8 hours in the storm, they paddle to shore with their catch.
Hindi bang gagana yan?
Ikot-ikot lang dyan, oh. Ay, hindi daw gumana. Kaya nabasa yung karburador.
Good.
Ay, ito, sir.
Timbang di, yung buong huli.
Buong huli yan. Mga 2 kilo. Mga 2 kilo kalahati o 3.
3 kilos of fish after a long day at sea, cold and wet in the rain.
Magkano niyo po magbebenta siguro yan?
Ito, sir, kung ano po, ganito po, 1 kilo. Ganito.
Pero lahat yan, sa pag pinenta
Ano,
niyo.
kung halimbawa, kung nagsada ng ano po sa tawag to, 300, gano'n. Lahat yan.
300 pesos. That's not even equal to the daily minimum wage. It's no wonder many people in Masinloc are forced to find other ways to survive. On the island of San Salvador, there are fish to eat and fish to feed. China kicked Filipino fishermen out of Scarborough Shoal in 2012. That took a huge chunk out of the pescadors' livelihood. Life became harder for them. In the island village of San Salvador, many pescadors have had to look for other ways for their families to survive. Resga Bison is one of them. Whatever the weather, he needs to sail about half a mile into the sea every day. But that's not always to catch fish. These are sea urchins. He gathers them from rocky patches underwater. The sea urchin innards make for a nutritious meal, but not for him or his family. Once the bowl is full, he dives into 30 feet of water. This cage is anchored to the seabed. The sea around San Salvador is littered with them. Every pescador has a cage or two he looks after.
Para saan po yung nakalawit, yung nakaganyan?
Ito, paglagyan ng pagkain.
Carefully, Res stuffs the sea urchin innards into the pouch. He makes sure not a morsel is wasted. This is lunch for the cage's residents. And the daily feast begins for 100 little fish called blue tangs.
Kino-culture namin.
Oh my gosh.
Yung kasama ni Mimo yan.
Si Dory.
The Disney movie has made blue tangs a popular aquarium fish. And the pescadores of San Salvador are cashing in.
fish cage na...
They don't breed blue tangs here. The species has never been bred in captivity. Catching and selling different kinds of marine aquarium fish is the pescador's alternative to conventional fishing.
Hinuhuli nyo, tapos nilalagay.
Binibili sa ibang lugar din na mayroong magkuha ng ganyan.
Binibili nyo pa to.
The pescadors here buy blue tang fingerlings from other fishermen who catch them in the wild in Zamboanga and Apari. They buy each fingerling for 130 pesos. They raise them in fish cages until they are the right size to sell to distributors in Metro Manila. This is Vicente, Reza's brother-in-law.
Magkano benta nyo sa ganyan?
Kung malaki, abot ng 300.
300. Ito medyo na.
250, ganyan.
Dahil dun sa pelikula.
Ah.
Kasi sikat sa ano.
He tells me 300 to 350 pesos is the going rate for a full-grown blue tang. The pescadores of San Salvador say they've been catching and selling exotic fish for decades. They say their enterprise is registered with the government and they've secured all the mandatory permits. The Fisheries Bureau approves of their livelihood as long as they don't catch endangered species.
Kano nyo ito mabibenta sa supplier?
4 pesos lang po yan.
4 pesos lang po? Ito?
Oo.
Pero alam niyo po ba na pagdating sa Manila, ang mahal nito? Like, alam po,
Manila, 4 pesos lang.
4 pesos.
Oo, 5 peso ganyan. Size ganyan.
It's hard to believe they sell these fish for such paltry sums when they go for hundreds and even thousands of pesos at pet shops. They tell me it's the distributors who dictate the prices.
Ay, wala sa ibang ano. Baka tayo na niloloko nila eh.
Even clownfish, also popular because of the Disney movies, only go for 20 pesos each. That's why the pescadores go for bulk.
Kung makapunta kami sa Escalboro, kung makapasok kami, malaki ang kita naman doon. Pero kasi kung dito lang banda sa amin parte, mahina ang kita namin dito.
Ever since China took over Scarborough Shoal, the pescadores' earnings have diminished. So instead of just catching species they find in abundance, they take advantage of the demand for the rare ones. They are aware that catching exotic fish in the wild is frowned upon, and there are some species protected by the government. But they must do what they need to survive.
Sinisita rin, mga bantay dagat, ganyan. O anong hinuhuli, ganyan, sabi lang sa amin. Aquarium po siya rin, hindi naman kami sinungaling. Siyempre, yun ang hinuhuli.
Anong sabi nila?
Sabi nila, bawal na yan sabi na eh. Oo, ganun lang. Bawal na yun sabi na eh. Sabi ko, posible naman, sabi namin eh. Kung bawal yan, dapat bawalan na doon sa may taas. Sabi ko doon sa Manila para wala na mag-deliver. Kakawin.
They are husbands and fathers with families to raise, bills to pay, and futures to worry about. Without access to Scarborough Shoal, the pescadores are left to fish in the shallows.
Ito naman ang habang buhay ng pang-aquarium. Okay. Hanggang mabubuhay ang anak ko. Mahirap. Sa kahirapan, pinasok pa na namin yung lahat. Basta mabubuhay lang kami. Maayos naman ang pamumuhay. Makakain kami isang araw. Ayos yan.
Itong katabi natin.
It's a hand-to-mouth existence with little hope of advancement. Many pescadores can't afford to send their children to college. So there's little wonder what lies ahead for their daughters and sons. But there are success stories. Pescadores who've built stable, comfortable lives back when they were free to fish at Scarborough Shoal. The United Nations Permanent Court of Arbitration declares Filipinos have the right to fish in Scarborough Shoal. But China would have none of it.
This is China Coast Guard. Performing law enforcement duty. Performing law enforcement duty. Please leave this area immediately.
No one knows the cost of this maritime dispute more than the Pescador.
Parang wala eh. Yan ang hinihintay ng lahat ng karamihan na mangingisda. Yan ang hinihintay na lumabas yung ano ng on-close. Ngayon, nanalo na tayo. Ganun pa rin yung nangyari. Hindi pa rin, sarili na natin yan, hindi pa rin tayo makalapit. Anong ibig sabihin yung ano natin sa on-close kung ganun lang naman?
Every fishing trip is an investment. The fuel for a medium-sized boat already costs 60,000 pesos. Add to that the Pescador's food, the supplies, and the fact that every expedition involves 4 vessels.
Ilan yung ginastos namin na diesel? Halos lahat-lahat. Namumuhunan kami para makapangisda, para makahanap buhay, para sa pamilya, para na rin makakikita. Paano ngayon? Hindi pa tayo inabot ng 2 oras, pinalis na tayo. Wala pa ganito palagi, wala.
Glenn Valle is in charge of one of his employer's boats. His job is to survey the sea for where fish congregate. And then, using radio, he gives the larger trawler boat its cue to set sail. A trawler employs some 30 pescadores. They each earn a commission from the catch. A lean catch means less pay. So they make the most out of every trip, sometimes staying at sea for a whole week. But when Scarborough Shoal was still open to Filipinos, they stayed there for months at a time. There was plenty of fish, and the shoal provided safe anchorage. That was how Primitivo Legazpi became a wealthy man. Ask any pescador in Zambales and he'll tell you he wants to be like Kativo. They say he sent the first trawler to the shoal in the 1980s.
Isda ba ito, Scarborough, ang talagang maraming isda. Scarborough. Marami ng gaya-gaya doon, pumunta, sumasama sa pescador ko. Kaya dumami doon na nakuha nga entire Pangasinan, Zambales, La Union, doon na sila magkita-kita doon sa Scarborough.
Maging ka na yan?
Primitivo says he started out as a penniless pescador, but he worked hard and used his earnings wisely. He built a comfortable life and put his 6 children through college, all from the money he earned fishing at Scarborough Shoal. Now that it's off limits to everyone but the Chinese, Primitivo doubts anyone can follow in his footsteps.
Talaga kawawa yung mga pescador eh. Kawawa nila, kawawa ngayon dahil yun na nga. At saka hindi lang yung kuwan eh. Dahil karami na atang pescador. At saka yung, alam mo, yung mga bibilihin, mahal na.
Times have changed. Those who grew up in Masinloc in the 1970s and 80s tell of a different town.
Na dati mayaman sa yamang dagat yung ating katubigan. Maganda yung mga seagrass natin. Maganda yung ating mga corals. Makikita nyo na dati-rati noong mga 1980s ay wala po yung mga fish cages na yan. Yan na rin yung simula ng paglabo ng ating karagatan at nagdudulot na rin po ng toxic na may mga pagkakataon na nagkakaroon na rin po ng fish kill dito sa aming bayan.
Leonardo Quaresma witnessed how the fishing boom of the 80s and 90s attracted outsiders to Masinloc. They sought jobs as pescadores on fishing expeditions to Scarborough Shoal. They settled down and built communities along the coast. What used to be a sleepy town is now home to at least 5,000 pescadores and their families. The once clear water is now murky. There are now fewer fish in the bay. More than ever, the pescadores need the bounty from the shoal. Leonardo leads the local Fisherfolk Federation. He dreams that someday, being a pescador will no longer mean being poor or at the mercy of the elements.
Pag inabutan ka ng unos, talagang totally yung buhay mo, hindi mo na alam kung ano magiging direksyon ng buhay mo. At hindi mo alam ni ultimo bangkay mo kung makikita pa o hindi na pag inabutan ka ng unos sa laot. Ganun po yung buhay naming mangingisda. At dito naman sa tabi, pagka wala ka nga sa peligro pero hindi mo naman alam kung ang buhay mo dito sa tabi pag nandito ka sa municipal water nangingisda. Kung tiyak ba na pag-uwi mo ay mayroon kang may uuwi para maiahin mo sa iyong pamilya.
The local government of Masinloc plans to help pescadors shift to farming and other kinds of work. But some pescadors say that's taking the focus off of the bigger problem.
Sana maano na to yung problema rito sa Scarborough na para makapaghanap buhay na rin yung halos lahat ng mga mangingisda na pumupunta dyan. Para sa ikabubuhay rin ng mga pamilya namin. Kasi pag doon lang kami sa tabi mangingisda, wala talaga. Kumbaga dyan na talaga yung hanap buhay namin yung pagpangingisda dyan.
But the chances of resolving the dispute with China anytime soon are slim. Experts say it's a problem that the next generation of pescadores will likely inherit.
Sino yan?
10-year-old Jason is the youngest of the Karanay boys.
Paano ka nakasigurado? Ba't ayaw pa nila bumalik?
For now, the beach is Jason's playground. But he already knows how to fish using a hand line. He helps maintain the boats and mend the nets.
Sanay po sila, ganyan yung mga anak ko si Jason. Pag ano po, hindi naman siya pumupunta ng dagat pag mga ganitong malakas ang ulan. Pag ano po, wala silang pasok Sabado-Linggo, nangangawil po sila.
Jason is learning how to be a fisherman. He is learning how to read the sea and the sky. Pretty soon, he will join his brothers at sea. One more son their mother will worry about. When there's a storm, or when he takes too long to come home. Like many boys in Masinloc, he will become a pescador. And he will want to cover as much of the sea as he can, so that his family can have a life and not just survive.
Scarborough Shoal is a pescador's dream fishing ground. But China's claim over it is preventing Filipino fishermen from making that dream come true. Pescadores and their families have been at the losing end in the dispute over Scarborough between the Philippines and China since 2012.
Hindi lang isang kaldero yung tinaob nila, marami. Maraming pamilyang ginutom nila dahil lang dyan sa ginagawa nila.
China's Coast Guard has become more aggressive in restricting access to the shoal after an arbitral court ruled Filipinos have the right to fish in Scarborough. Just a few days after the ruling in July, CNN Philippines tried to enter the shoal with a group of fishermen, but failed.
This is Chinese Coast Guard performing law enforcement duty here. You should leave here immediately.
Parang wala eh. Yan ang hinihintay ng lahat ng karamihan na mangingisda. yan ang inihintay na lumabas yung ano ng on-close. Eh ngayon, nanalo na tayo. Eh ganun pa rin yung nangyari, hindi pa rin, sarili na natin yan, hindi pa rin tayo makalapit. Anong ibig sabihin yung ano natin sa on-close kung ganun lang naman?
We give it another shot 4 months later. After relations between the Philippines and China warm up, following President Rodrigo Duterte's state visit in Beijing. As I hop on board this boat, 41-year-old Budog Lebios, the captain, is already busy in his cabin.
Dorado.
I look around and there are 8 more fishermen in the boat. We set out to Calboro. This big wooden boat they call Ruvina 1 will take us from Barangay Cato in the town of Infanta to 128 nautical miles west off the shores of Pangasinan. Budog tells me it will take us at least 19 hours to get to Calboro, or Scarborough Shoal. This, by far, is my longest travel at sea. As we push further into the ocean, my internet signal is cut off. I'm off the grid. The journey is on. Our first day at sea ends with this beautiful sunset. It's 5 in the morning and we're halfway to Calboro. The sea is rough and the rain is pouring. Our boat is open, so I find shelter near the captain's cabin. The fishermen Noel and Utoy use this plywood, while Jemmer grabs this tub to cover himself. Our boat is loaded, so the trip is taking longer. We finally reach Scarborough Shoal after another 12 hours. The fishermen tell me it's been years since they've made it this close to the shoal. The tide is low as we arrive. All we see is a formation of rocks separating the shoal from the rough waves of the open sea. For a minute, I stop and think. So this is what we've been reporting about. From afar, I see 4 white ships of the China Coast Guard.
Wala talaga kaming laban, siyempre bangka lang sa amin, saka nagabarko. Kung magtigas-tigasan kami, baka ano pang mangyari sa amin, kami naman, hindi naman kami pwede na makipagsapalaran sa kanila kasi kahoy sa amin, sa kanila, bakal.
Reality dawns on me. We are right in the disputed waters of the West Philippine Sea. The waters around Scarborough Shoal is like a lagoon in the ocean. It's about as big as Quezon City. We lay anchor on the west side of Calboro, just a few meters from the reefs. The mouth of the shoal is on the east side, where the Chinese Coast Guard keeps watch. While waiting for high tide, we decide to stay in the boat, which serves as our house while we're out here.
Let me walk you through our boat. This is our work area where we set up our things, our equipment. This is also where we sleep at night. It's Captain Budog. This is his cabin. This is one of the service boats on board. This is Kuya Norman's boat. Hi, Kuya Norman. Right over here is our kitchen. and dining area. That's Jimmer. Right over here is where we wash our dishes and our clothes. Now this is the front part of the boat. There's a storage area right there that serves as our bathroom here.
Jemmer is the cook. He is one of the most excited to be here. He boasts that this is where they catch the finest fish he's ever cooked.
Masarap po ay, lalo yung mga malalaki, malakitok.
Ibang klase.
Ibang klase, tsaka sariwa po siya, ma'am. Pag ulamin po natin talagang bagong huli.
But ultimately, he believes fishing in Scarborough will help him achieve his dreams for his family.
Mabuhay namin yung pamilya namin, tapos yan, makapag-aral din yung anak namin para dito lang kami kumukuha ng pamumuhay sa pamilya namin, wala nang iba.
There are times our lighthearted exchange of stories gets interrupted when Chinese ships draw close to our boat. They pass by slowly. For a minute, we all get nervous and hold our breaths. And then we loosen up and relax as soon as they drift away.
Baka pabalik na sila.
Fishermen are catching fish, so far, without interference. It's easy to understand why they like it here. The fish are huge, and there's a wide variety of them. Talakitok, tanige, rockfish. Some of them I've never even seen before. As night falls, the fishermen say today's catch is just right. They can do better tomorrow. We all find a spot to snooze in the boat. Some sleep by the service boats, while Jemmer feels comfortable on the edge of the boat. This radio is the only form of entertainment here. I noticed Captain Budog listening to this Aerosmith song over and over again to put himself to sleep. And soon, everyone's off to dreamland. A fisherman's day starts even before the sun rises. It's no different for fishermen here in Scarborough Shoal.
It's our fourth day here at Scarborough Shoal. It's around 5 in the morning, and the fishermen have already caught 3 big fish just around our boat. Kuya Jimmer, paano mo po nahuli tong tatlong isda?
Nakamilan po, nakuha po siya taga. Pinainan po ng isda na liwet, sabi namin kung tawagin. Yun ang kinakain nila, kaya nakahuli din ng 3. Masaya naman po. Dahil kahit pa paano nakakita na rin kami na at saka subukan na naman namin nakahuli ng bakalaw.
As soon as their service boats hit the water, they head out. We are now on the southwest of Calboro, the local term for Scarborough. The only entrance for big boats like this is at the mouth of the shoal on the east side. Fishermen use small motorized bangkas to get inside and around the shoal. I joined Marjon on his service boat to reach the mouth of the shoal. This is the east side of the Scarborough Shoal, or what they call the mouth of the shoal. Over there you see 2 Chinese Coast Guard ships. On the opposite side there are 4 more. We were actually expecting them to send in their rubber boats to stop us from getting here, but apparently they did not. Now this side of the shoal is where most fishermen want to catch their fish, but because of the Chinese presence, they choose not to. I'm with one of them, Kuya Marjon. Bakit hindi kayo dito naglalatag ng mga pain ninyo?
Ay, mahigpit sila dito, ma'am. Bawal. Yung pag maglagay kami ng mga pang-hanap buhay na gamit, pinuputol nila. Kasi malaman ng ito isda. Yung dumadaanan kasi ng isda itong mga to.
We stay for just a few minutes. Marjon is worried Chinese rubber boats will come to harass us. Back in the mother boat, 56-year-old Zaldong, the oldest and the most experienced in the group, comes back first. He has a big catch.
Ayos naman ngayon kasi wala na kasing nangbubulabog na mga China ngayon eh. Medyo magana yung loob namin na hindi na kami kinakabahan.
Some days they get heaps of fish. But there are bad days when the fish are scarce because the current is too strong. On those days, fishermen bring home nothing. I guess it's not a lucky day for Norman. He hurt his foot diving.
Natapakan ko kasi yung bantol. Makirot kasi. Parang may laso yata yung tinik yun, kaya ganun makatinik, masakit. Halos hindi ko magalaw yung pako. Kung medyo kaya naman, ay wag na lang pansinin yung sakit.
Tinitiis mo na lang.
Oo, tiisin na lang.
Noel also got a few cuts while trying to hunt for a big catch.
Ay, ayun!
Yun, naramdaman ko na yung pagtulog ko, parang siyang mahapdi na. Na yung parang nag-ano dito ko, parang nagmamanit.
After a few days here at sea, I'm getting used to seeing these huge Chinese ships around the shoal. They move close from time to time, but we don't feel any threat or harassment so far. And then there's this. A plane flies over Scarborough Shoal. We have no idea where it's from. The Philippine Coast Guard later claims it sent the plane to monitor the situation around the shoal. The fishermen tell me they're quite sure China will send a plane to counter the Philippine Coast Guard's move.
Pag magpalipad yung Pilipinas, susunod yung magpalipad yung China. O yung aeroplano ng China. Palagi namin maranasan yan dito.
Talaga?
O pag magkakita sila ng nagpapalipad na aeroplano ng Pilipinas, magpapalipad din yung aeroplano ng China. O paikot-ikot.
We wait until sunset, but there's no China plane in sight. 2 days later, we see another spectacle up in the air.
Coast Guard yun. O parang kagaya sa parang kulang Coast Guard ng China rin. China yun, hindi Pilipinas yun.
Anong nakita mo kanina?
Aeroplano po, ma'am. Yun ang di po natin alam kung kanino galing yun, kung sa China o sa Pilipinas. Medyo mataas naman, ma'am, kasi pero kulay itim siya.
Anong nararamdaman nyo kapag may ganon?
May halong kunting kaba, ma'am, may halong kunting saya. Di malaman, ma'am, kasi di natin alam kung kalaban o kakampi.
This time, we get a confirmation that the plane is sent by the Philippine Navy to conduct a reconnaissance around the disputed waters. Jerwin admits to me he gets scared whenever he sees a plane flying over our boat, especially when he's clueless if it is a friend or a foe.
Parang tulala ka kanina nung nakita mo.
Kasi natatakot ako pag nakakita ko ng plano. Nakakatakot kasi nasa taas eh. Baka may hulugan tayo ng kwan ngay. Mga bala nila, delikado ng delikado. Kaya nakakatakot sa taas. Hindi natin kilala kung sino nakasakay doon. Yun, mga yun, di mo alam, kalaban pala natin yun. Yun lang. Kawawa tayo.
But I guess this is something they should learn to live with. Something they should get used to while they share the Scarborough Shoal with these Chinese vessels. Life at sea is far from the comforts of home. Here, I learned to blend in and make do with what's on board. There's no Wi-Fi, no cool songs on Spotify. I can't share posts on Facebook. But here, we share food. We share stories, jokes, and good laughs. We were in Scarborough Shoal for almost a week. Fishermen tell me there have been occasions when they stayed here for as long as a month, even on special days like Christmas and New Year. The youngest in the group, 21-year-old Jerwin Manila, tells me being away from his wife and daughter is part of the sacrifice to give them a good life.
Yung pamilya ko lang ginawan ko dito sa laot. Para mabuhay ko sila. Mas maganda pag-asama sila. Kasi parati mo silang mawakan. Ayan, mayakap.
At the end of the day, the fishermen's journey to Scarborough Shoal is not simply about insisting on their country's right to territory or resources. It's about a man's fight for his very survival and of those he loves. So what's so special about Scarborough Shoal that draws these fishermen back here in the face of the territorial dispute with China? I find out why as I enter the shoal on the small motorized bangka. The tide is low, so Captain Budog tugs the boat as he wades through the shallow waters of the shoal. What happens next takes my breath away. I'm suddenly in a little piece of paradise right in the middle of the sea. Through the crystal clear water, I see corals and some tiny colorful fish. The water here is very calm. You can mistake it for an infinity pool. Fishermen call it kalboro. Captain Budog and Marjan collect seashells we can eat for dinner while still keeping watch of the China Coast Guard ship nearby. But right now, happiness overshadows the fear. The Scarborough Shoal is also called Banatag Shoal, a name befitting its calm waters. Fishermen tell me it is the safest place to stay when the sea gets rough on stormy days. Kalboro has one of the richest coral reefs in northern Luzon, where there's a wide variety of fish. This is why fishermen travel over 100 miles away just to catch fish here. This boat comes all the way from Mariveles, Bataan.
Ilang buwan na rin, taon na yata bago kami nakapunta dito. Medyo kumbaga namimiss rin namin ng mangisda dito sa bahuran na to.
They're back after getting attacked by a Chinese vessel not so long ago. Last year, this China Coast Guard ship fired water cannon on Captain De Eugenes' boat when they refused to leave the Scarborough Shoal. Jadan Baguio was there, and he fell off the boat when it happened.
Parang sobra, parang mas malakas pa sa Baguio. Sabay dito ako nakatayo. Sabay pagbomba po ng water cannon, akalain ko naman na mahina. Pag abot pala dito malakas, sabay nahulog ako.
Saan?
Dito po.
Doon ka nahulog?
Sa bangka.
They've been fishing here for almost a week now and has so far caught tons of big fish like these mackerels.
Kalboro is like a huge lagoon in the middle of the ocean. The fishermen consider this as a treasure trove. Now that the tension here has eased and they can fish for as long as they want, the fishermen can now go home with bountiful catch from Scarborough Shoal.
I go back to our mother boat and catch Captain Budog looking out into the ocean. He says he is seeing better days ahead.
Puno talaga ng pag-asa at alam natin na hindi na tayo pinapalis eh. Nandito tayo na talagang tuloy-tuloy yung natin na nabuhay.
Behind him, I see a rainbow. Camille Abadisio, CNN Philippines.